Hey, welcome to a new video on my channel with Procreate Dreams. So the Procreate team has just released the new updates and they are awesome, the team and the updates. And in this video, I'm not gonna cover those updates since they already did that in their video. Instead, I'm going to start a new series that basically covers animation fundamentals and basics and principles possibly, but not in a too technical way, but rather just to give you idea on how you would leverage this amazing software that is pretty affordable. And therefore, I find it to be an empowerment to artists to offer this software for that very reasonable price, and it's a one-time payment. You don't have to give a kidney every month to some company. And hopefully you would enjoy this video and learn something today. When you create a new project, I'm just gonna go to the theater. So when you create a new one, you can start with empty or Flipbook. So I started with Flipbook, which is this one here. And the Flipbook is basically when you have a small flipbook that has pages and you draw. And the difference between the typical flipbook approach and the academic approach of doing animation is how you lay out the in-betweens. To just give you an idea, I'm gonna click on edit. So now I will be able to make the drawings that I want. And one of the amazing improvements that they made on Procreate Dreams 2 is that we have plenty of brushes now. You can just even pinch out and then you can select. So it's pretty more advanced now. The flipbook approach would be, for instance, the typical example of animating a bouncing ball. The typical flipbook approach is to animate straightforward. So for instance, if you're making a bouncing ball, you would go frame 1, and then you would make frame 2, then frame 3, and that is what's known as the straightforward animation approach. Now, if you want to do that approach more successfully, the way to do it is frame 1, then you want to do acceleration. So frame 2 shouldn't be really close. Instead, you just need to give it a bit of a cushion, a proportional, gradual distancing. Then the next one wouldn't be the same gap. It has to be a little bit more. And then like that. So that's how you make the straightforward animation or the flipbook type of animation to be more successful, because now you're actually proportionally expressing that there is acceleration. And of course comes the exaggeration of making that ball to bounce like a pancake. And this is how you really stage it in a more exaggerated way. You can even make the ball to feel coming down like that, even though technically balls don't do that, but that's really another addition you can make to make your flipbook or straightforward animation more successful. And I've covered some straightforward animation with a smoke coming out of a cauldron using Procreate Dreams before, but I'm just as I mentioned, I'll be making these videos with a new context of the changes that they made. And also to touch on the fundamentals of animation for those who are interested in learning animation more seriously. Now, when it comes to the academic approach of making 2D animation or 2D or in animation in general, but in 3D you don't have to do all that calculation. It would do it for you. In 2D, or in principle at least, the way you do academic animation is that you start with the first keyframe and then you don't draw anything in between. And this usually would be an odd number, frame number 1. And then here you would go into frame number 9. And next you would make the in-between. Now you don't do the in-between to be in the center. Instead, like I mentioned, you need to express acceleration. So this is halfway through, you kind of push it a little further, like that. This way, you're actually expressing, especially if you make it a little bit oval for exaggeration, you're expressing animation, acceleration, okay? So first frame, this is the 5th frame, and this is the 9th frame. Why odd numbers? Because to do in-betweens successfully, you need to have a halfway through. Because if you don't have the halfway through, you cannot have full control over how the animation is going to look, or you cannot have precise control over the acceleration. So now we look for number 3 and we do the same thing. It's not halfway, but a little bit further. So this is the 3rd frame, and here is the 7th frame. Maybe I would push it just a little bit more. And then in here you would have that filling in between to make the animation smoother. Now I'm not gonna get too technical with animation yet, but now you know the difference between the academic approach of doing keying and animation versus the flipbook. The flipbook is more straightforward. It's a little bit more fun because you don't have to do a lot of thinking, but you wouldn't really have the best control over the movement unless you're really experienced. So I'm gonna make a small example here just to show you how the animation goes when it comes to using the flipbook, and I'm really gonna make it loose. And in this demo, I'm going to also illustrate or show how the playtime or the playback speed affects the animation and affects the look of our result. So here is the 1st frame. Next, I'm gonna go to the 9th frame, and then as you can see, I don't have to really worry about the gradual changes, because what I can do here is to select the 1st frame, and then click on that plus. Okay. Now, what do we have here? This is what's called the onion layers or onion skins. And that means that I am able to see the frame before this one and the frame after using different colors. The methodical approach is to use the colors red and blue. And they used to use these two colors, the red and the blue, the colored pencils for those onion skins. But if you want to have control over what they look like, if you click on settings, you would see the backwards. So in the 3rd option here, onions, you get to choose, maybe you want this to be red. Now it would be red. You also get to choose what is going to be the opacity. See, now it's super obvious, which is not really ideal, but if you really want to make it more vivid, you can push that opacity a little bit further. 38, 35, it's a preference. Let's go to the forward and I'll make this blue. And I'll push the opacity just a little bit. Now, what is this number? I'll show you soon in the context of using it. Now I'm on the middle frame. So technically that frame in the middle is the 5th frame, right? I'm just gonna make sure this is, yeah, sometimes you don't know, or I don't know if it's like a brush residue or just the screen not being super clean. So now I'm gonna draw the 5th frame, and now I'm gonna actually undo. And the benefit of digital animation is that you can click on transform. See how I placed it incorrectly, meaning it's halfway through, and I want to express the acceleration. So I want to push it just a little bit further, and I can scale it up just a little bit more. So now it expresses acceleration much better, right? Okay, so now back to the brush. So brush takes you back to the drawing mode. Now what I want to do is, now that I've established the 1st, the 9th, and the 5th, I'm gonna select the first one, and notice here how I have 2 blue onion layers. What does that tell me is that the onion visibility is showing me 2 frames forward. Now, if I go to the settings, click on forward, and if I say I want you to only show me 1 frame forward, so I don't get confused or overwhelmed, look at that. It's no longer showing you the frame after the first, right after, right? So this is the frame where I'm standing, then only 1 layer or onion layer. If I click on settings and click 2 frames, or typically you want at least maybe 3 for really having full visibility, then I can see all of them. So I'm standing on the 1st frame now, and I'm gonna wanna do the same thing here where I would draw the 3rd frame. So click on that plus, and now you see that the 1st frame turned into the previous onion layer color, which is identified here, right? So now I'm gonna draw that all in there. There you go. And of course, it's not consistent with the scale, so I can just really keep draw over, or I can just use the transform to scale it up. But as you can see, everything is loose. Just stay on the loose mode so you can really get a good grasp over the animation. And if you're OCD, it's gonna bother you a little bit, so just make it a little bit better. And as you can see, instead of the center, I'm gonna push it just a little bit forward. Okay, so this is the 2nd frame. And also the typical approach when it comes to methodical animation is that you number the frames right in the corner, any corner you choose. So this is the first one, 1. And this is gonna be actually not the 2nd, but more like the 3rd. And this is gonna be the 5th. And this is gonna be the 9th. Okay, so now between the 5th and the 9th, I get the 7th. So I select on 5, then click on the plus. Now I should be here, and that's going to be the 7th. So I have now 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I'll clean it up just a teeny tiny bit for my OCD friends, and also for clarity, and to keep it loose so I don't get to the point of like, oh, let me clean this, and spending a lot more time on the cleanup. Notice how this is incorrectly positioned. So what I need to do is click on transform, and notice here, if I move the whole thing, it's going to move the number, and it's good to keep the number where it is. Here comes one of the new tools that they have created, which is, if you click on select, ta-da, transform. Check this out. This is one of the amazing tool additions that they have made, which is making a lasso selection. And a lot of people have been asking for that, so the team did an amazing job achieving that. So I'll push it just a little bit more, so now I have more of that acceleration feel. So that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna go from frame 5 all the way to frame, I guess 15 or maybe 17. So 5, 6, 7, 8, or no, sorry, 9, so then 11, and then 15. So here is frame 15. So I'm gonna select on the frame 9 and then click plus, and then I want 15 to be here. Now select on the 9th frame and then plus, and then here I have the 13. And then standing on the 13th, click plus. This is gonna be technically the 14th. At this point, this is in between. When I tap into the even numbers, that means it's 14. Okay. Now notice how this is actually accelerating, because it's beyond the halfway point, and I do not want to do that. Instead, I'm gonna go into the select, make a selection, and then transform, and then push it back, because right now I have the movement, or the velocity is slowing down. Okay, it's fading out, just so it would have this kind of slow kind of peak there. And here is where it's going to be the peak of the velocity, like bounce and then jump, right? So going back to the brush, this here is 13 and this here is 9. So I'm going to click on 9 and then the plus, and this would be frame 11. And for exaggeration, you can make it to be like that if you want. But I'm not really gonna touch on the exaggeration that much, just to keep things really technical at minimum. Now, as I mentioned, this is gonna be the peak of the movement. Therefore, I'm gonna make a selection and then push this back here. It's bouncing right off, so it's supposed to have much more velocity. And technically, the body of the ball, unless it's made of out of something that's really hard, but even then, it would still do some at least minimal bending. In that case, it's not really an exaggeration. And you can even overlap it with this one here. But this is frame 9 and this is frame 11. Okay, now when you take the onion skin off, you would actually rely heavily on these numbers. So it's really important to keep them in mind. Okay, what do I have now? I'm gonna go to the settings, turn off the onion skin. So one more time, settings, turn on and off the onion skin. So this is frame number 1, okay? 3, I am missing an in-between that I'm gonna fill out soon. 5, 7, 9, bouncing, squashing, then 11, 13, 14, 15. 14 here is just an in-between. So now let me go to the very beginning and start to add those in-betweens, at least to make sure I'm not confusing you. So go to the settings, onion skin. Kind of bothering me how too loose this is. I want it to be loose, but not annoyingly loose. Okay. And now I'm being on frame 1, gonna click on the plus. Now I can do the in-between. And technically speaking, when there's not so much movement, you can pretty much copy that same frame. Of course, if the ball is really neatly drawn here, which is not in my case. But technically you can really copy that, duplicate it, and then nudge it just a little bit. So this is frame 2. Now frame 3, 5. So I click on frame 3, I hit plus, and then that's gonna be my 4th. 5, and then 7. So I click on 5 again, hit plus. Now I'm going to add the 6th frame. That has got to be the weirdest ball. Okay. Really working with loose animation is kind of more fun until you want, or unless you want something to be really polished. Okay, now I have this to be 5, 6, 7, 9. I click on 7, hit plus, and that's going to be the 8. Now here, this is one of the most common mistakes that I have made, and a lot of animation students always do. They start to make the ball to deform as if the ball knows it's going to bounce, which is, when you think about it, it's kind of funny, but it's never the case. The ball doesn't know it is about to bounce, right? Unless it touches the floor, then the ball should stay round. Okay, so that is frame 8. Now frame 9. I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit, mainly because it's a little too large. And therefore it sort of ruins the feeling of the animation, potentially. Okay, so that is 9. Next I have 11, so I go back to 9 and then click plus, and then on and on and on. And here is where I also make the oval shape, because when the balls bounce, they do squash. And of course, you know, stretch and squash are one of the pillars of the animation, typical animation exaggerations that need to be considered for a cool animation. So frame 11, 13, click on 11 plus, and this is 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so there you have it. Now let's watch it. How do I watch it? I can click on play, but before I do that, when you click on Flipbook, go to finish drawing. Right here is where you define the frame speed. So I'm just gonna play it on 15 or 12 frames. 15 is good, I guess, for now. And when I hit play, it's playing like that. And I'm just gonna zoom in here. So in the Flipbook, when you zoom in and zoom out, if you click on the trigger with your finger, you can see where it's moving. So now, to ensure that it's going to play exactly the length that I want it to play, I'm going to limit the visibility of that Flipbook within that timeline. So now it should play towards the end. So now you can see it's a little slow. To make it play faster, I would go and play it 24 frames per second. In other words, academically, it's called on ones, which means you get 1 frame to play at the frame of 1 and 1 second. You would have 24 frames per second. This is considered the full speed in 2D animation. So on ones, it should play 24 frames per second. If you play it on twos, which means each drawing holds for 2 frames. If each drawing holds for only 1 frame, that's called on ones. So in other words, if you play it on 12, that means this is called on twos. It's playing on twos, and that's usually for cheaper and more economic animation. But if you want the high end, especially if you have fast movement, you want it always to play on ones, which costs more for labor and also gives you much better quality. So you get what you pay for. So now let's watch it playing on ones. And as you can see, it sort of bounces gently. Sorry, let me push there. I'm gonna also pause here, and then I'm gonna click on edit Flipbook so I can see it more in full screen here, and hit play. And now I'm going to go to the settings and then remove the onion skin. Now, just for fun, let me show you why exaggeration is really important. I'm gonna turn on the onion skin and I'm gonna erase this, and I'm going to, so the floor or the ground is right there. Now I'm gonna make it to be like that. Okay, and the frame before, I'll just make it, I think I'll keep it. I just need to tweak the frame after, just so it would blend in a little bit better, so it feels like this pancake of a ball is actually the one bouncing off. So now when I go to the settings and remove the onion skin, this is what I have, right? Notice that big jump. This could be something that can be smoothed out a little bit. So I'm gonna take this one, the frame before, and I'm gonna get it a little larger, just so that big squish is gonna feel a little bit more organic. Go settings, remove the onion skin, and let's watch. Ready and play. And as you can see now, it's just playing almost evenly. So almost, it's actually pretty okay. But what I want to do is to consider, not necessarily do in this example, to consider exaggeration of the acceleration. So if I had more gaps here, the acceleration would show a lot more, but this would be your perfect start to get into the animation, whether you want to do it academically or straightforward. I'll put the link for my straightforward cauldron smoke animation and I am going to also maybe on the next video, one of my favorite examples is the diving board animation, where you would make it just really bounce off, and this would be the perfect example to learn about the in-betweens. All right, I hope this video was helpful.